All right, we need some clarity on the whole gay marriage debate, especially, in my opinion, from conservative Christians who are supposed to be the moral compass of society, the people who don't compromise their basic moral principles for things like utilitarianism or the greater good of society or collectivism. So what am I talking about? I want to address the idea that there should be a state-enforced ban on gay marriage. And this is an extremely confused, convoluted issue when you involve the government. But once you become an anarchist, all of that complication just evaporates away and you get this great clarity. It's amazing. So let's just walk through it. There's a few confused arguments. So let's just go through them one by one. First is the idea that, well, we can't legalize gay marriage because that would be essentially taking the money of people who disagree or who find it to be morally wrong and using it to support and sanction gay marriage, something which people believe to be wrong. And so finally conservatives realize that it's wrong to take people's money and use it to spend it on something which they disagree with. Abortion's another perfect example, and I totally get that. I agree. You should not take people's money to spend on something against their will. That's what's called stealing, boys and girls. So why don't conservatives look in the mirror and realize that they advocate the theft of gay people's money to support their own state-sanctioned marriage and the tax benefits that straight couples get from a state-sanctioned marriage? You howl like wolves at the idea that your money would be spent on something which you find to be morally wrong, yet you advocate for that same thing. You advocate that other people's money be spent to sanction your marriage. This is actually a really good argument that we should get government out of marriage in the first place. If you don't want to support other people's marriages, you shouldn't have to vote and beg for that right. You should just, you naturally as a human have the right to not have your money stolen to support things which you find to be evil. So as a Christian, you should stand up against the idea that it's okay to take people's money, steal it, and spend it on things which they find to be morally wrong. So another argument is the idea that, well, we can't legalize gay marriage because then that's essentially condoning it. That's putting a stamp of approval on it. And this is completely ridiculous. It's like you paint yourself into a corner. It's analogous to somebody who's on drugs who says, well, I can't quit now because then I'm going to go through the withdrawals. So you say, why did you start doing drugs in the first place? You wouldn't have this problem. So let me give you an example. Right now, there are lots of things that are not good, that are harmful, or that are even considered evil or sinful, that hopefully conservatives realize should be legal, such as being jealous, overeating, being a jerk, being mean, having fits of rage, being lazy, wasting your life. Those are all bad things. But conservatives should hopefully realize, considering that they almost worship the founders, that this is part of what this country was founded on. This is the whole idea of freedom and individual liberties, pursuit of happiness. The idea that people should be free to do whatever they want as long as they are not directly violating the rights of other people. That's the whole idea of freedom. Okay, there might be some things which you disagree with, and I agree, if people would behave in a certain way, society as a whole could be better off. And let me take a step back. There's the argument that gay marriage puts us on a slippery slope and that society ends up going downhill as a result. So basically, it's a utilitarian argument. The idea that, well, you see, it's bad for the greater good of society in the long term if we legalize gay marriage. Okay, we need to be consistent in our principles here. There are lots of things that people could do which are not good for society in the long run, such as wasting your life watching TV all day, or sitting on the couch and getting fat and causing insurance rates to go up for everybody, or not doing more community service. Conservatives realize, everyone realizes that we could all be more generous, more helpful to society in general. But that doesn't mean we have the right to force people to behave in a certain way. Okay, again, this idea of freedom, basically the concept is you can do whatever you want as long as you're not violating the rights of other people. So for instance, yeah, it's okay that we would force people to not murder each other or to rape each other or to steal from other people. But beyond that, there's this thing called individual liberty, the pursuit of happiness. So what essentially I'm saying is victimless crimes are not crimes. People have the right to hurt themselves, but not to hurt other people. So how does this relate to gay marriage? If if you believe that gay marriage is wrong, you do have to admit that it would be a victimless sin. Just like overeating is a victimless sin. The victim is yourself, but nobody else. Being jealous, having envy, all of these other sins, these are things which people realize should not be illegal. And in fact, God gives us the free will to do these things. We realize that they're wrong to do in our personal lives, but we realize that people should have this right because they're not hurting anybody else. Are gay couples directly violating the rights of other people? No, of course not. And we all know that in our heart of hearts. We realize that gay people aren't doing anything to aggress against other people. Now, again, you may have the idea that, well, in the long run, it's not good for society. Oh, there's a lot of things in the long run that are not good for society. Okay, watching violent movies or gossiping or having a poor, unhealthy lifestyle, there's lots of things that are bad for the greater good of society in the long run. That doesn't mean we should have a government-enforced ban on everything that's bad. Okay, again, this is the whole idea of individual liberty and freedom. So, to tie this back, the idea that, well, if we legalize gay marriage, there's a stamp of approval on it. No, drinking gasoline is completely legal. And let's say we had a totalitarian state that had a ban on everything that was bad, that eating nachos, overeating, sleeping in, wasting your life, drinking gasoline, they're all illegal. And hopefully conservatives would realize that, hey, these things should not be illegal. Even though they're bad, that doesn't mean we need a state-enforced ban on them. That's totalitarianism. All right? Conservatives believe in limited government, right? So then when you legalize those things, that doesn't mean you approve of them. Again, it's like painting yourself into a corner. Oh, we can't legalize it because that means we all approve of it. No, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good and everyone encourages it. And this, again, is an argument for anarchism, for the lack of a government, because you should be able to withdraw your support from other people's lifestyles. This idea that it's okay to take people's money by force and to use it to buy things which they find to be immoral, to spend money on things that they find immoral, such as supporting someone's marriage that they disagree with, that is the evil idea. That's what's immoral. So when conservatives say, yeah, I think we should keep a ban on gay marriage, I want a state-enforced ban on gay marriage. And by the way, I also want the state involved in marriage. I want them to be the ones who officiate marriages and give tax benefits. What they are really saying is, I believe that we should steal gay people's money to spend on state-enforced straight marriages and a prohibition on gay marriage and tax benefits for straight marriages. And I want to deny gay people those same benefits with their own money. They believe in theft. That's what it is, which is evil and goes against the Bible. So just because you want to give people the natural human right to live their life as they please, as long as they're not directly violating the rights of others, doesn't mean you approve of their lifestyle. So that's this confusion between, do you personally support gay marriage versus do you think there should be a government-enforced coercive law against gay marriage where we prohibit people from pursuing happiness and doing things which don't hurt other people in their own life. It's really, do you believe in freedom or not? That's what the debate is all about, essentially. And there's another argument that basically goes like this. Well, if we legalize gay marriage, you see, that's changing the definition of marriage. Marriage was fundamentally a religious institution in the first place, and it was defined as between a man and a woman. Okay, that's fine. This is why, again, this is another argument that we shouldn't have the government involved in marriage whatsoever. Because the government takes your money, it claims to represent you, and then if the government now defines marriage as between a man and a woman or a man and a man, then they're taking your money to support something which you believe to be morally wrong. And of course, you should not be subjected to that. It is your right to not have to pay for something which you find to be morally wrong. So there may be people who, in a stateless society, abuse your definition of marriage, or let's just call it the definition of marriage originally, religiously, was between a man and a woman. Okay, that's fine. People are going to call it what they want. People may, in your mind, abuse the definition of marriage and define it as between a man and a man or a man and a dog or whatever. I'm sorry, but it's not our right to force people to act a certain way when they're not hurting other people. If people want to marry another man, if a man wants to marry another man and call it marriage, what right do we have to butt in on that? We may disagree with it, okay? There are lots of things that people do which I disagree with. But that doesn't mean I have the right to violently aggress on them in their lives when they're not aggressing against other people. When I have no right to coerce people to behave in a certain way. Just because they're going to abuse the definition of marriage doesn't mean you have the right to prohibit them from pursuing happiness as long as they're not hurting other people. So, in conclusion, we need to get rid of this idea that just because you support someone's right to behave a certain way doesn't mean you support every decision they make. Okay, I support your right to waste your life. I support your right to say things which I disagree with. I support your right to be a bad husband. It doesn't mean I support those things. I really wish you'd behave a certain way. It doesn't mean I have the right to violently coerce you to behave a certain way or to take your money and spend it in ways which you find to be morally wrong. And all of this is really just a respect for the non-aggression principle. All I'm saying is that you should not steal people's money, and you should respect people's property rights and their right to behave a certain way in the privacy of their own home, which is their own property, as long as they're not violating the rights of others. That's all I'm saying. And they're actually biblical principles in the first place. So the reason I'm calling out conservatives here is because I'm trying to get them to stay principled. Like on the issue of abortion, they are principled to a T. Like they stand on principle so hard on abortion. But what happened to all of the principles of freedom and individual human rights and pursuit of happiness and limited government when it comes to gay marriage? So I'm not trying to pick on conservatives. Liberals are just as bad. They have their own things. I fully sympathize and get where people are coming from on these opinions. Most people just honestly don't even look at it from this perspective. It's just kind of a given that, yeah, we live in a society with government and everyone tries to point the gun at the right person to get the outcome that they want in their life. Everyone's trying to grab hold of the gun of the state to coerce people to mold society into what they want. And I'm trying to get everyone to think in a different paradigm, that maybe we all have individual human rights and we should all respect the non-aggression principle.